The night my parents died, I learned how quiet danger could be. No shouting. No warning. Just the sound of my uncle's voice drifting through smoke. Make sure the girl didn't make it. I was 14, hiding inside a wardrobe, my mother's hand still warm on my wrist. She'd pushed me inside seconds before the fire started. Don't come out, she whispered. No matter what happens. That was the last thing she ever said to me. I should have died that night. Everyone thought I did. Because when the flames swallowed our house, my uncle and aunt stood outside, crying loudly enough for the police to hear. And smiling when no one was watching. They inherited everything. The company. The money. My parents' legacy. And their biggest problem? The heir. Me. Madame Yoon saved my life. She pulled me through a back door while sirens screamed, pressed a wet cloth over my face, and never once asked my name. You're coming with me, she said firmly. Unless you want them to finish what they started. That night, I stopped being a daughter. I became a ghost. My hair fell to the floor in thick black strands. My dresses burned in a metal barrel behind her shop. She wrapped my chest and handed me clothes that weren't mine. From today on, she said, cupping my face gently. You're my son. She named me Park Seo-jun. A name no one was looking for. Years passed in silence. No photos. No attachments. I learned to walk like a boy. Speak like one. Lower my gaze. And when the scholarship notice appeared. Elite Boys Academy. Full ride. Madame Yoon stared at it for a long time. They'll never look for you among boys, she said. And you deserve a future. I was terrified. But I took the exam. And I ranked second. The school gates were massive. Cold steel. Unforgiving. I told myself this was just another disguise. Then I met Kong Jae-won. He didn't crash into me. He simply stood in my way. Tall. Broad-shouldered. Perfect posture. His uniform looked tailored, his expression unreadable. Eyes sharp. Cold. The kind of handsome that made people look twice, and think twice before speaking. You're blocking the path, he said calmly. No irritation. No smile. Just quiet authority. I stepped aside instantly. Knew, he observed. It wasn't a question. Yes, I answered. He studied me for 1 second too long. Then walked past. I felt something crawl up my spine. Everyone knew Kong Jae-won. Top of the class. From a powerful family. Rarely spoke. Never wasted words. Girls from nearby schools lingered outside the gates just to see him walk by. And somehow, I ended up as his roommate. The dorm room was suffocating. I unpacked silently, aware of every movement. Jae-won sat on his bed, reading. Not once did he look up. Until I reached for my hoodie. You don't change in front of others, he said. I froze. No, I replied carefully. He finally looked at me. Then continued what he was doing. That was it. No judgment. No suspicion. Just acceptance. It unsettled me more than hostility would have. Days passed. Weeks. Jae-won barely spoke, but when he did, it was always to the point. Eat. Don't skip class. Stay behind me. Behind him? I noticed it then. When seniors shoved me in the hallway, he stepped between us without a word. When teachers questioned my background, his presence ended the conversation. When someone joked about me being pretty for a guy, Jae-won's gaze turned sharp enough to cut. The joke died instantly. I told myself it was nothing. Just his nature. Until one night, when I woke up gasping for air. The binding had shifted. Pain exploded in my chest. I stumbled into the bathroom, trembling. The door creaked. Jaiwon stood there. Silent. Watching. Sit, he said quietly. I didn't argue. He handed me water. Didn't touch me. Didn't ask questions. But his eyes lingered, too perceptive, too focused. You hide pain well, he said. My heart raced. Why do you care? I said, trying to cover up the situation. He looked away. Because you're mine to protect. In my head I was like, what do you even mean by that? I told him I was fine and that it is nothing serious. I doubt he believed me. Danger returned a week later. An unknown number. You survived. Interesting. I deleted the message with shaking hands. But I wasn't fast enough. Jaiwon saw my face drain of color. Who is it? He asked. No one. He studied me. Cold expression. But his fist tightened. If someone is threatening you, he said quietly, they won't get a second chance. I believed him. That was the problem. Because I was falling for someone who could destroy everything. Just by learning the truth. And I didn't know which would hurt more. Losing my life. Or losing him. The first rule I'd learned about Kang Jaiwon was simple. He didn't interfere unless it mattered. So when he began to interfere with everything, I knew something had changed. It started subtly. Too subtly for anyone else to notice. When I reached for my tray in the cafeteria, it was already beside his. When group assignments were announced, his name appeared next to mine every time. When seniors crowded the hallway, they moved before they even touched me. Not because he told them to. Because they saw him. Jaiwon never raised his voice. Never postured. He simply stood there, tall and silent, eyes cold enough to warn anyone smart enough to read danger. And they did. I told myself it was coincidence. But coincidence didn't explain the way his gaze followed me. Not staring. Observing. Like he was memorizing my existence in pieces. Min-jae noticed first. Seo-jun, he whispered one afternoon, leaning across the desk with a grin, do you know you're special? I am. I replied flatly. You're the only person Jaiwon tolerates this much. Across the room, Jaiwon glanced up. Min-jae flinched instantly. I mean respects, Min-jae corrected. Jaiwon returned to his work. I didn't miss the faint tension in his shoulders. It was during midterms that everything became serious. Stress made mistakes easier. And I made one. The bathroom was empty, or so I thought. I'd locked myself in a stall, fingers shaking as I loosened my binding just enough to breathe. My lungs burned. My vision swam. I didn't hear the door open. I heard him. Seo-jun. My blood turned cold. The stall door didn't open. But his shadow stopped just outside. You've been in here a long time. I swallowed. I'm sick. Silence. Then his voice, lower. You're in pain. Not a question. I pressed my forehead against the door. Please go. Another pause. Then footsteps retreating. I exhaled shakily, relief flooding me. Until his voice returned, quiet but unmistakably close. If someone ever hurts you, he said, tell me first. I sat there long after he left, shaking. Because he hadn't asked what was hurting me. Only who. The next message came that night. You look different with your hair tied back. No number. No signature. I stared at my phone until my hands went numb. Someone was watching me. And for the first time, I considered telling Jaiwon. The thought terrified me. Not because he wouldn't protect me. But because he would get to know my world. Era arrived the following weekend. She was beautiful in a sharp, deliberate way, long hair, calculating eyes, smile that never quite reached them. Jaiwon's cousin. And the only person who spoke to him without fear. So this is Seo-jun, she said, circling me slowly. I resisted the urge to step back. She tilted her head. You're interesting. Jaiwon moved instantly. That's enough. Era raised a brow. Protective? Observant, he replied coolly. Her gaze flicked between us. Something sparked. Dangerous curiosity. She cornered me later near the vending machines. You live with my cousin, she said casually. That's rare. I was assigned, I replied. She leaned closer. You smell like lavender. My heart slammed against my ribs. That's soap. Is it? She murmured. Then she smiled sweetly and walked away. I didn't relax until Jaiwon appeared beside me. Did she say something? No. He studied my face. She's not harmless. Neither are you, I thought. But I didn't say it. The tension between us thickened after that. Not spoken. Felt. He stood closer. Walked slower. Waited for me without explanation. One evening, power went out across the dorm. Darkness swallowed everything. Someone shouted. Laughter echoed. I froze. Hands grabbed my wrist in the dark. Not his. Hey. Before I could react, pressure vanished. Jaiwon's voice cut through the chaos. Let go. The boy laughed nervously. Relax, it was a joke. Jaiwon stepped forward. I couldn't see his face. But I felt the shift. Touch him again, he said quietly, and you'll regret it. The hand released me instantly. Jaiwon didn't ask if I was okay. He pulled me behind him. Shielded. That night, in the dark dorm room, neither of us slept. Why do you protect me? I whispered finally. Silence. Then. Because I want to. That answer was too honest. I turned on my side, heart racing. You don't even know me. I know enough. What if you didn't? The pause stretched. Heavy. Then I'd learn. My chest tightened painfully. The truth clawed at me after that. Every look lingered. I noticed the way his eyes softened, just slightly, when he thought I wasn't looking. This wasn't friendship anymore. It was something restrained. Something coiled. And secrets have a way of demanding payment. The payment came during the school festival. Crowded. Loud. Chaotic. I lost him in the sea of bodies. Then I felt it. The familiar, paralyzing sensation of being watched. A man stood near the entrance. Tall. Expensive suit. Eyes too sharp. My heart dropped. I knew that face. One of my uncle's men. I turned to run. And slammed straight into Kong Jaiwon. He took one look at my face and stiffened. What happened? Jaiwon followed my gaze. Something dark flickered in his eyes. Seo-jun, he said calmly, gripping my wrist, who is that? My throat closed. The truth pressed against my teeth. Because this time, the danger wasn't emotional. It was real. And if I told him, nothing would ever be the same. He tightened his hold. Talk to me. The secret I'd protected for years began to crack. Right in the hands of the one person I was afraid to lose. I realized something important too late. The men near the festival gate weren't looking at me. They weren't searching. They were laughing. Talking. Passing through. They didn't recognize Park Seo-jun. But I recognized them. The way one of them scratched his jaw when thinking. The way the other walked half a step behind, always watching. My uncle's shadows. My knees went weak. The past didn't need to see me to kill me. All it needed was for me to see it. Seo-jun. Jaiwon's voice cut through the noise. You're pale. I tried to answer. Nothing came out. My ears rang. The crowd tilted. My chest tightened violently under the binding, panic crashing into pain I'd ignored for too long. I need. My vision went black. When I woke up, the world was quiet. White ceiling. Beeping sound. The smell of antiseptic. A hospital. I tried to sit up. Pain exploded across my chest. Don't. His voice. Low. Controlled. Too close. I froze. Jaiwon stood beside the bed, sleeves rolled up, jaw tight, eyes darker than I'd ever seen them. What happened? I whispered. You fainted, he said. Your breathing stopped for a few seconds. My heart slammed. Why am I? Because I had to remove your uniform. Silence crashed between us. I couldn't breathe. The blanket felt too light. Too revealing. My eyes darted to his face. He wasn't angry. He wasn't shocked. I could not read that expression. I didn't want to believe it, he said quietly. I told myself there had to be another explanation. His fingers clenched at his side. But there isn't. I squeezed my eyes shut. I can explain. I know, he interrupted. I know you didn't lie for fun. That broke me. Tears slid down my neck into my dress. I never meant to trick you, I whispered. I just wanted to live. He exhaled slowly, as if steadying himself. I thought I was losing my mind, he admitted. You made me think I was crazy. My breath hitched. He looked at me then. Really looked. And now, he said, voice rough. I find out that you are really a girl. Conflicting emotions crossed his face, relief, anger, fear, something dangerously close to joy. I cried openly then. I'm sorry. He reached out. Stopped himself. Then finally rested his hand over mine. We'll deal with the rest together. Returning to the dorm felt wrong. Not dangerous. Just wrong. Because everything looked the same. But I wasn't. And neither was Kong Jaiwon. The room was quiet when we entered. Too quiet. The door closed behind us with a soft click that sounded louder than it should have. I stood awkwardly near my bed, fingers twisting together. So, I said weakly. This is weird. Jaiwon let out a breath that almost sounded like a laugh. Yes. One heavy word. He removed his jacket and placed it carefully on the chair. Then he looked at me again. And this time, he didn't look away. I'd never been seen like this by him before. Not really. Not as her. His gaze traveled, hesitant, respectful, conflicted, like he was afraid of crossing a line that hadn't existed yesterday. You should sleep, he said quietly. I will, I replied. Neither of us moved. The silence stretched. Charged. Jaiwon, I whispered. He looked up instantly. Yes? Are you uncomfortable? No, he answered faintly. I'm afraid, he said. My heart clenched. Of me? I thought. Of how much I want you, he continued calmly. And how impossible it would be to pretend this didn't change anything. My breath hitched. He took one step closer. Then stopped himself. I felt like I was going crazy. That night, he slept facing the wall. I didn't sleep at all. The days after were more intense. He kept my secret. Still introduced me as Seojun. Still walked beside me like nothing had changed. But behind closed doors, everything had. He started leaving notes on my desk. Eat. Rest. Don't bind too tight. When I flinched in crowds, his hand found the small of my back, brief, grounding, possessive. When I laughed too loudly, he watched me like he was memorizing the sound. Min-jae noticed. Of course he did. You two are weird, he muttered. Like, romantic but tragic. Jaewon didn't deny it. The first time he touched my hair. It was accidental. Or so he pretended. I was sitting at the desk, frustrated over homework. He reached past me to grab a book. His fingers brushed my neck. I froze. Neither of us pulled away. Slowly, carefully, his fingers slid into my hair. Soft. Reverent. I forgot how to breathe. The kiss happened 2 nights later. But this time, he didn't step away. He stood in front of me. So, he murmured. If I do this, I'm not wrong anymore, am I? My lips parted. No. His lips rested against mine. Soft. Intense. Short. It was the shortest kiss imaginable. His hand cupped my face. Then he pulled back slightly, a devilish smile appearing, one that made my heart skip several beats. That same year, graduation arrived. We were moving toward a new era. And then, my past came back to claim its place. Jaewon didn't ask me to hide anymore. He asked me to tell him everything. So I did. The fire. The inheritance. My uncle and aunt. Madam Yoon. Every word felt like reopening scars. Jaewon listened. Silent. Deadly calm. When I finished, he stood, pulled out his phone. And made one call. The Kong family didn't ask questions. They investigated. Quietly. Thoroughly. Within weeks, the truth surfaced like rot underwater. False death certificates. Manipulated inheritance documents. Bribed officials. The person sending the threat was also arrested. The person knew Madam Yoon and was trying to blackmail her. How he got to know of the secret is what I have no idea about. My uncle and aunt were arrested at dawn. Fraud. Murder. Attempted murder. Conspiracy. I watched the news report from Jaewon's shoulder, shaking. They can't hurt you anymore, he said. For the first time since I was 14. I believed it. I graduated as Park Seo-jun. But I reclaimed my real name soon after. Standing in court, hair grown out, voice steady. Alive. The inheritance was returned. My parents' company restored to me. Madam Yoon moved into my new home, scolding me for skipping meals, and crying when she thought I wasn't looking. Family didn't have to be blood. Sometimes, it was survival. Jaewon waited. Though not very patiently. He wanted the world to know that I was his. One evening, months later, he stood at my door. Come with me, he said. For what? A date. My heart nearly stopped. When I opened the door again, I wasn't hiding. A soft, flowing dress. Hair falling freely down my back. No bindings. No lies. Just me. Jaewon stared. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he stepped closer, eyes burning with something unguarded. So this is you, he murmured. I smiled nervously. Disappointed? He shook his head slowly. I don't think I've ever been this sure of anything. He took my hand. Under the city lights, he leaned in, his forehead resting against mine. I love you, he whispered. I laughed through tears. So, we survived? He kissed my forehead. We lived. For the first time, I wasn't running. I wasn't hiding. I wasn't pretending. I was loved. As myself. Hi besties, thank you for staying until the end. Your support helps us create more amazing stories. Please like and subscribe for more.